Hi everybody, this is me, the infamous Kiki, doing a part 2 to my video. I like to say like, share, subscribe, comment below. You have to excuse me if I look a little, like I said, if I look a little hot and sweaty, because I actually have no AC. I have no AC in my house, and so I had to turn the fan off over here, and then I have to turn all these hot lights on, these ring lights. I'm getting all hot and sweaty for you guys, for you. I've decided to just give out content that I want to talk about and things that I would like to talk about. And so I just talk on various topics. Like if you're new to my channel, like I said, I thank again all the people who subscribe to me. I don't know why y'all subscribe, but you know, keep on doing what you're doing. Trying to get my hair. I got this little spot right here that's just sticking up. You see it? You see it? You see it? Anyway, so we're going to talk about, this is part 2, about how I became a Jehovah's Witness. Where we left off is I agreed to a Bible study with some Jehovah's Witness ladies. And if you see my backdrop, it's not really a backdrop. It's just where the magic happens. This is where the magic happens. But anyway, so back to what we're talking about. And for those of you, like I said, from the XJW Jehovah Witness community, I like to say hello. Thank you for joining me. And so yeah, I started studying with these Jehovah's Witness ladies. And I was taking in all the knowledge, just to the face, just taking in all of it. And I was loving it. I really truly did. The message of the Jehovah's Witnesses and their religion truly resonated with me. Again, I was young. I was new here. I'd been to church before. I never had really anyone sit down and explain the Bible to me and talk with the Bible. I've read the Bible before. Like I said, again, if you didn't see the other videos, this was in the 90s. So this is before Google, before the internet, before all of these resources that are available now to learn about God and religion and the Bible. I was pretty much doing it on my own since I was a kid. I love history. I have a keen interest and love of history. I love to read. I still am a voracious reader. I consider myself a very intelligent person. My intelligence is probably my strongest point. And I was a very inquisitive, curious, intelligent child. Like I said, I came here, I didn't have any friends, so as we were studying, then the Jehovah's Witness ladies, they invited me to go to their Kingdom Hall. Now, for those that don't know, Kingdom Hall is another word for a Jehovah's Witness church. They used to, not anymore, but they used to go to the Kingdom Hall twice a week, and then a Bible study in someone's home once a week. So I started out just going on Sundays. Most of the Jehovah's Witness meetings, the main meeting is on Sunday. And then they had a meeting on Tuesday. And then the in-home Bible study was at somebody's house on Thursday. So I started out just going to the Sunday meetings. Then ramped up to Tuesday meetings. Then ramped up to the Thursday meetings. All this time, my grandmother didn't have any issues with her. So the ladies would come and they would talk to my grandmother about the truth and everything like that. And I would tell my grandmother, this is great. You know, my grandmother was very religious. She believed in God. Church of God in Christ. My great-grandfather was a preacher. A big-time preacher. I've had relatives and ancestors that have started churches in Mississippi and in other places. So my family, I have a lot of family members that are married to really well-known church people. I won't say their names, but I have church mothers and deacons and deaconesses all throughout my family up north, where I'm from, up north. Most of my family lives up north. And so to her, she decided to study. I got her to study. I was happy. I was like, you're going to get saved. You're going to know the truth. That's what people call the Jehovah's Witness teachers. They call it the truth. And then you're going to survive Armageddon, which is the end of times, the days of tribulation. And I thought, I'm going to have my grandmother with me and everything like that. People find it very curious that I became a witness so eagerly, you know. And then, like I said, my motivations was I put up all odds. I mean, I had to go to school, and I've always celebrated holidays. Like I said, I wasn't born into this. I stopped celebrating holidays voluntarily. I stopped doing the whole thing. Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate holidays. I stopped that voluntarily on my own. So here I was, 13 years old. And just didn't celebrate holidays. I stopped saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I sat down. I had, even as an adult, if you know me and you know my, if you know me and you know my adult years, I have and still have no problem with confrontation, with whether it be religious, whether it be political. I don't mind rocking the boat when it comes to my beliefs. My beliefs are strong. I have strong beliefs. And I believe that you have to stand for something or fall for everything. And I believe in a lot of research and a lot of knowledge. So becoming a Jehovah's Witness, that was right up my alley. And I didn't care. I thought I have a streak of defiance in me anyway. So the idea that I'm not going to say Pledge of Allegiance, I'm not going to do holiday shit, I was like, bring it. Just bring it. Like, my family is that type of family. Like, we've been involved in political things. We've been in other ways, which is for another day, another video. But, you know, my family, we have a streak in us that's just not there's a non-conformist streak in my it's in my soul. It's literally in my DNA for me to question everything. I've always questioned everything. So Jehovah's Witnesses seem like they're the only ones that had an answer. You know, why does God do this? Why does God let suffering, and why is everything seems like it's getting worse? And, you know, I just ask questions, and they just seem to have the answer to my questions that I was satisfied with in my 13-year-old mind. And so I went to the Kingdom Hall. Then me and my grandmother, we moved apartments. So the city that I live in did live in was a big city. So when we moved apartments, I had to move Kingdom Halls. So, and then I had to move Bible study teachers. Like, I couldn't keep the same because we were moving from one part of the city to another, and that was in a different territory. So I moved to a different territory and had to start studying with a different sister. And she was an older sister, and I remember her name to this day. And I still have two gifts that she gave me. She gave me a old book from the 1920s that I still have downstairs. She also gave me this photo album that that she made for me that I still have. Her husband was an elder. Her son was a ministerial servant. An elder is somebody in the church, like I guess we'd say Jehovah's Witnesses. We don't really have pastors. We have like a body of elders. So some congregations, depending on how big it is, can have 3 elders, 4 elders, 5 elders, 6 elders. Just depends on how big the congregation is. And the elders pretty much dictate the, rules and the spirituality, and you go to them for counseling and stuff like that. They give the talks. We don't have sermons with Jehovah's Witnesses. We have talks. And a ministerial servant is somebody who helps around the Kingdom Hall. They help out in the congregation. They assist the elders. So it's like a step, like there's levels to this, And so I was studying more and more. And then they asked me, did I want to go out and preach the Bible? That terrified me. I got to knock on doors, and they're like, we'll start out slow. We're just, and what they call is being an unbaptized publisher. Being a publisher means you're preaching the good news, mean you're out trying to convert people over. So those jokes about the annoying people knock on the door, I'm thinking I'm about to become one of them. I was terrified. I was scared. They were like, well, come out. We usually do it Saturday mornings, of course, when people are home. And sometimes on Sunday. We do it on Sundays. Now, these days, the preaching work has changed. They have carts now at like airports and malls and places like that. They didn't have that. Now they have letter writing campaigns because of COVID. They didn't have that. Now there's many different ways you can preach to people online. Even before COVID, I lived in a time where we didn't have none of that. Okay. We just had to do strictly door to door. And sometimes, and thank God I lived in a nice area, in a nice neighborhoods. My territory was, territories, or each Kingdom Hall has a territory where they go preach out in. But going door to door was very hard for somebody who's introverted to knock on the door and be like, hey, would you like to learn about God and Jehovah? And people slam the door in your face. And sometimes excuse me, sometimes people were rude, but I never really had any like pull a gun on me. I've heard all kinds of crazy stories, but yeah, I started going out on Saturdays, and the person I studied with, she taught me what to say at the door, how to say things at the door, and then we had a lot of theocratic ministry training inside the Kingdom Halls during the talks of how to start conversations with people and witness to your relatives and friends. Again, my relatives are up north, so I didn't really have anyone to really witness to. And by this time, my mom was studying. So then my mom started going, well, I should say my grandma. I call my grandma my mom. She's the one that raised me. And then we started to go to the Kingdom Hall together, and we started to go to the meetings. And I think they tried to get my grandmother to go door to door, and my grandmother was like, no, I'm not doing that. She's like, girl, child, I'm not doing that. No, my grandmother was not trying to have that. So, yeah. And so I became an unbaptized publisher, and I ended up changing schools as well. I changed cities, I changed schools. Me changing schools, that's a whole different ball game. Me changing schools. The first congregation I went to, there weren't that many young people my age. The second congregation I went to, which was in a bigger area, still in the suburbs, but a bigger area, there was more kids there in our congregation, but not a lot, I think. And then the word, it's kind of hard to explain, but our Kingdom Hall had our own territory, but the schools were different. So there's kids that I would go to the Kingdom Hall with who didn't go who didn't live quite where I lived, and their school was a different junior high school. So out of everybody, I think I went to school with 2 or 3 kids who went to my Kingdom Hall, and they were all guys. So of course, being friends with a female is not smiled upon. Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in sex before marriage. They barely believe in dating. None of that go on. And then those dudes, they wouldn't talk. I mean, they wouldn't talk to me, and I wouldn't talk to them. I mean, I wasn't interested. Like I said, by the time I was 13, 14, almost 14 years old, and I wasn't trying. And then they pretty much stayed quiet and stayed to themselves. I just remember just not having any friends. Like, it's frowned upon for Jehovah's Witnesses to have worldly friends. But I did have worldly friends because I had worldly friends. But then with me moving away from where I was living to another city and going to another school, I went to another school and had to start all over again. So I went from having worldly friends that I really wasn't supposed to hang out with, but I still talked on the phone with them and called them anyway, because I had those friends before I started studying with the Witness. But then I moved, and so I was like, okay, now those other friends, we don't have any cars or anything, and they lived in a whole nother city. Their parents are not going to drive them over there. So I would still talk to them over the phone, but it's not like I could like go hang out with them after school or anything like it was before. So now I'm at a new school, and this new school is totally different than my previous school, and the people there are very cliquish. I'm real quiet and shy, so I've always had a hard time fitting in, and so I really felt like I didn't fit in at that school in Richardson, Texas. I would say in Richardson, Texas, the high school I graduated from. I didn't feel I fit in. Then went to the congregation, and the few kids that I did go to school with, they were all dudes. And then the other chicks that were in the congregations that were around my age, 13, 14, 15, there wasn't that many. I just don't remember there being a lot of association. There was a few girls that I didn't associate with because I kind of got a feeling that they weren't the type I would associate with. I think things were kind of said like they were really worldly, and they were kind of worldly. Like they had their nails done, their hair done. Like I was not in all of that. I am still not in all of that. I was kind of a tomboy then. I'm kind of a tomboy now. Like I've learned to do all this stuff, but I'm not into hair and makeup. And I remember them just being into gossiping about boys during the meetings and all that. And I there was no boys that I liked or I was talking to. So they were kind of like, witness adjacent. They were very worldly. Worldly means somebody who's of the world, who's not spiritually minded. And I was very serious and spiritually minded until time goes on, and I still didn't have any friends. Now, things have changed now. You have online groups. You have jw.org. I think there's a lot more chances, and it depends on what, I would say also, depending on what congregation you are in. Some congregations I know had a lot of social gatherings and stuff like that. And we had social gatherings and I was invited. I never got any sense that anyone treated me differently because my family wasn't witnesses or unbaptized publishers, or I was an unbaptized publisher. I never felt like I was treated differently. However, from watching some of XJW videos and going online, I kind of think that maybe I was oblivious, which is not totally out of the realm of possibility, because I was just kind of, I always wanted to do my thing. Like I like being by myself with some aspect, but not all the time. But I never felt like people were shunning me or I wasn't invited. I was always invited. I had older sisters. I had these two older sisters, who was taking my Bible study up and taking me out to service, and they kind of took me under their wing, and they were these black sisters, and they lived together, and they were like in their 30s, and they're real sweet, and the lady I studied with, when I got through finally studying, she talked about baptism, and she was, very stern with me. But I never felt any ostracism. Like I said, it may have been behind my back. I don't really know. But I never felt any ostracism. I never felt any differently. I felt like I was an anomaly. A lot of the elders, and not a lot, but some of the elders, they were always very pleasant to me. They were always very nice to me. Like I said, I had a lot of good sisters, older sisters, who took me under the wing, invited me to gather. And I was just so terrified of saying something wrong. Like I would sit there, like I'm shy anyway. I'm not... I would just sit there and not really talk to anybody, because for some ways I kind of felt out of place, because here I was 14 years old and these people were older. So, I tell the sister, I want people my age, to hang out with. And so there was this one Hispanic sister. She had just moved to the congregation, and she was like kind of talking to me, and, and then we kind of struck up like a Kingdom Hall friendship. Like we would talk after the meetings. But it never went any further, like, okay, we're exchanging phone numbers, we're hanging out. I wish I did. I do regret that maybe I should have done more. But it's hard when someone's really, really shy. And then I was terrified, I wanted to be good in Jehovah's eyes. And, I was trying to be really theocratic. And like I said, I succeeded for the most part. I didn't really have that many obstacles at first. At first. Yeah. Okay, because as time went on, I actually met some friends at school. I had two friends at school, and they just thought it was just absurd that I was a Jehovah's Witness and why I was a witness. And my parents weren't making me go to church. Why would you want to go to church 3 times a week? Your parents aren't making you. No, my mom's not making me. My mom goes to the Kingdom Hall once a week. I'm doing it because I wanted. They couldn't fathom that or understand. And then we all know that as you get older, and then as I got older, things started to change. So that's it for part 2. We'll go into part 3 of how things started to change and what happened to me being a teenage Jehovah's Witness.